Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we are talking all about being tired.
Tiredness.
A lot of you have been sending in excerpts from Matthew Walker's book, Why We Sleep. And, we all know that we're supposed to get like 8 hours,
hmm
but is that really all there is to it?
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start
Yeah.
because we often blame ourselves, right? We say, "Oh, I was up too late watching TV, or I had too much coffee, or, you
Yeah,
know,
or, too much screen time.
scrolling on my phone." Yeah,
Yeah,
all those things matter, but it's a little bit more complex than that.
it is right.
And the truth is, there are a lot of kind of hidden enemies to sleep that we're not aware of.
Okay, so where do we even begin with that?
Well, I think a good place to start is to kind of put things in perspective.
Okay.
Walker argues that one of the biggest shifts in our relationship with sleep happened with the arrival of electric light.
Oh, yeah. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, it was a game changer.
Yeah.
Suddenly, we weren't limited by the setting sun.
No more all-nighters or anything like that.
No, you could pull an all-nighter, no problem. We became the only species
Right.
that could really manipulate light, to this extent. And while that obviously brought with it incredible advancements, it also marked a turning point in our relationship with sleep. We started pushing our boundaries, ignoring our natural rhythms, and we began treating sleep as an optional activity.
So how did that actually change things for us? Like, how did that change our bodies?
So our brains are wired to respond to light in very specific ways,
Hmm.
right? Light, or the lack of it, it's the main cue for our internal clock, which is called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN for short. And this is like the master timekeeper in our brain that regulates our sleep-wake cycle.
So is that why I'm more awake in the daytime and sleepy at night, like my brain knows what time it is?
Yes, exactly. So when the SCN senses darkness, it signals the pineal gland to release melatonin,
Oh, melatonin, the sleep hormone.
the sleep hormone. And melatonin levels rise in the evening, making us feel drowsy and preparing us for sleep. But here's the catch. Even dim light can interfere with this process.
Really? So even a bedside lamp is going to mess with my sleep.
It can. Yeah, a bedside lamp can trick your brain into thinking it's still daytime.
Mm.
Even that small amount of light can suppress melatonin production and delay your sleep onset.
Wow, I never knew that. I always thought it was just about how much sleep I get, not necessarily when I get it.
That's right. The timing of your sleep is just as important as the duration.
Okay.
And unfortunately, modern life is full of things that disrupt that timing.
Okay, well, so what are some of the worst offenders?
Okay.
I mean, we've talked about light in general, but are there specific kinds of light that are like particularly bad for sleep?
That's a great question. While any light at night can interfere with melatonin production, blue light is particularly problematic.
Okay.
And we're talking about the light emitted from our beloved laptops, smartphones, and tablets.
Right, well, I definitely feel more wired after scrolling on my phone before bed.
There's a reason for that.
Okay.
Blue light hits the sweet spot for the SCN's light receptors,
Hmm.
making it incredibly potent at suppressing melatonin. So it's like a double mammy. Not only are we exposed to light at night, but it's the type of light that's most disruptive to our sleep.
Okay, so are we talking about like any amount of screen time? Or is there like a certain threshold where it's particularly bad?
Yeah, even small amounts of blue light exposure at night can have an impact, but the more you use these devices before bed, the greater the disruption.
Okay.
And it's not just about falling asleep later. Studies have shown that blue light exposure before bed also leads to less REM sleep.
Okay, so back up a second. REM sleep, that's like the dream stage, right? Why is that important? I always thought it was just about getting enough deep sleep.
REM sleep is crucial for memory consolidation, emotional processing, even creativity. When we're deprived of REM sleep, we wake up feeling groggy and mentally sluggish. And over the long term, it can have serious consequences for our cognitive health.
Wow, I had no idea. So it's like we're trading short-term productivity for like long-term brain fog.
That's a great way to put it. And speaking of things we do for short-term comfort
Yeah.
that have long-term consequences, let's talk about alcohol.
Okay, the nightcap, makes you sleepy. But is that actually good sleep?
That's the myth, right?
Yeah.
It feels like it's helping, but alcohol is actually a sleep saboteur.
Oh, really?
It might knock you out initially by sedating your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for impulse control,
Hmm.
but it actually disrupts your sleep architecture throughout the night.
So even though I might pass out quickly after a drink or two, I'm not actually getting good quality sleep.
Exactly, it's deceptive because you might feel sleepy at first, but alcohol fragments your sleep, leading to those frustrating nighttime awakenings that you might not even remember. And it also significantly suppresses REM sleep, further compounding the problems we just discussed.
Oh, no. So not only am I not getting enough REM sleep because of my phone,
Yeah.
but my relaxing glass of wine is making it even worse.
Potentially, yes.
So what else is going on? What else is like conspiring against my sleep?
Well, remember how we talked about our brains being wired to respond to light and dark?
Yeah.
It turns out temperature plays a crucial role too.
Temperature. I mean, I know I sleep better when it's cool, but like,
Hmm.
what's the science behind that?
Yeah, so to fall asleep, your core body temperature needs to drop by a couple of degrees.
Mm.
And this cooling process is closely linked to the SCN, our internal clock. When your core temperature drops, it reinforces the message to the SCN that it's time to sleep.
So my body's basically like an internal thermometer telling my brain when it's time to hit the hay.
Exactly. And to facilitate this cooling process, our bodies have evolved some pretty ingenious mechanisms.
Yeah.
Our hands, feet, and head act as radiators releasing heat to lower our core temperature. Ever notice how you might stick your feet out from under the covers at night?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That's your body trying to cool down.
So it's not just like a weird thing I do. It's actually helping me sleep.
It is helping you sleep. But think about it. We live in these climate-controlled environments, keeping our homes at a constant temperature.
Right.
And this disrupts our natural temperature fluctuations and can interfere with our sleep.
Okay, so I need to ditch my phone, ditch the nightcap, turn down the thermostat. Is there anything else I can do to help my body cool down for sleep?
There is. One surprisingly effective strategy is taking a hot bath before bed.
Wait, a hot bath to cool down. How does that work?
It seems counterintuitive, but a hot bath actually helps your body cool down more efficiently afterward.
Hmm.
When you submerge yourself in hot water, blood rushes to the surface of your skin, helping to dissipate heat. Once you get out of the bath, this expanded blood flow continues, allowing your core temperature to drop more rapidly, signaling to your brain that it's time for sleep.
Oh, that's amazing.
Mm.
I'm going to have to try that tonight.
It's one of those simple tricks that can make a big difference. And speaking of things that disrupt our natural sleep rhythms, let's not forget about the dreaded alarm clock.
Oh, the alarm clock. Love it and hate it, you know?
I hear you.
Yeah.
But think about it from your body's perspective. You're abruptly jolted awake from a sound sleep, often right in the middle of a dream cycle.
Yeah.
Your heart rate spikes, your blood pressure surges, and your fight or flight response kicks in. It's quite a stressful way to start the day.
Yeah, I've definitely felt that before. So is that why I sometimes wake up feeling kind of groggy and disoriented, even if I've got enough sleep?
Exactly. And if you hit the snooze button, you're putting your body through that stressful awakening cycle over and over again within a short span of time.
Ouch. I'm definitely guilty of the snooze button.
It's tempting, but those fragmented bursts of sleep you get between snoozes aren't restorative.
Okay, so what's the solution? Because most of us can't just ditch the alarm clock altogether.
That's true. But there are ways to make waking up a little gentler on our bodies. We'll dive into some strategies for that in the next part of our deep dive.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'm already looking forward to learning more about how to outsmart my alarm clock and start my day feeling refreshed and energized.
Mm.
Okay, so we've talked about how modern life throws a whole bunch of sleep disruptors our way. Light, temperature, alcohol, it's like a constant battle.
Mm.
But before we get into solutions, I wanted to touch on those cultures that Walker talks about that live more traditionally.
Mm.
You know, groups like the Gabra people in Kenya.
Right.
They don't have alarm clocks or, even consistent electric light.
Right.
So what can we learn from their sleep patterns?
Yeah, it is fascinating to kind of compare, isn't it?
Yeah.
These cultures provide a glimpse into how humans slept for centuries before the advent of modern technology.
Right.
Their sleep is really deeply intertwined with the natural rhythms of day and night, temperature fluctuations, and social cues.
So they're like really living in sync with the natural world.
Yeah.
So no blue light, no late night Netflix binges. Do they actually sleep better?
Studies show that they do experience longer and more consolidated sleep. They tend to fall asleep shortly after sunset and wake naturally with the sunrise.
Okay.
And importantly, their sleep is less fragmented, meaning fewer awakenings throughout the night.
That sounds idyllic,
Yeah.
but I mean, let's be real. Most of us aren't going to be trading in our smartphones for a hunter-gatherer lifestyle anytime soon.
Right.
So how do we apply those lessons to our modern lives,
Right.
especially when it comes to, that dreaded alarm clock?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. It's about finding ways to minimize that disruption
Yeah.
and make our mornings less jarring. And believe it or not, there are actually quite a few things we can do.
Okay, I'm all ears. What are some practical tips for, making peace with my alarm clock?
Well, first and foremost, consistency is key.
Okay.
Try to wake up at around the same time each day, even on weekends.
So no more sleeping in till noon on Saturdays.
I know it's tempting, but even an hour or two of difference can throw off your rhythm.
Okay.
Think of it like jet lag without the travel.
Okay. Consistency noted. What else?
So think about how you wake up.
Mm.
Instead of being jolted awake by a blaring alarm in a pitch black room, try using a wake-up light that simulates sunrise.
Mm.
These devices gradually increase in brightness, mimicking that natural dawn,
Yeah.
which helps to suppress melatonin and signal to your body that it's time to wake up.
That sounds a lot nicer than my current alarm situation. It's like easing into the day instead of being shocked into it.
Exactly. A gradual, gentle awakening is much less stressful on your system. And speaking of gentle, consider the sound you use for your alarm.
Okay.
You know that jarring beeping or buzzing? It's like an assault on your senses.
It really is. It's like starting the day with a mini panic attack.
Right. So try opting for something more melodic and soothing.
Okay.
Nature sounds, gentle instrumental music. You could even choose a sound that makes you feel happy or inspired.
So like instead of waking up to the sound of impending doom, I could wake up to the sound of, waves crashing on a beach.
Exactly. It's about setting a positive tone for your day right from the start. And while we're on the topic of sound, if you're a light sleeper, using white noise or a fan can really help block out any disruptive noises that might rouse you from sleep.
Oh, that's a good idea. I'm a notoriously light sleeper, so any little creak or groan in the house will wake me up.
White noise can make a world of difference. It creates a soothing, consistent background sound that masks those smaller, more disruptive noises. And finally, let's talk about the snooze button. I know it's tempting, but try to resist its siren call.
Yeah, but those extra few minutes of sleep are so precious.
I know, but it's a deceptive trap.
Okay.
Those fragmented bursts of sleep that you get between snoozes are not truly restorative. In fact, they can even leave you feeling more groggy and disoriented.
Okay, you've convinced me. The snooze button is officially banned. But this brings up another question. We've talked a lot about quantity and timing, but what about quality? How do we know if we're actually getting good sleep?
That's a great point. It's not just about how many hours you're in bed, it's about how restful and restorative that time is.
Right.
One way to assess this is to pay attention to how you feel during the day.
So if I'm dragging myself through the afternoon and hitting that 3 p.m. slump hard,
Yeah,
that's a sign that I'm not getting quality sleep.
it could be, yeah. Other signs include difficulty concentrating, increased irritability, and, feeling sleepy during the day, even after getting a seemingly adequate amount of sleep.
Okay, so those are like the red flags.
Yeah.
So what can I do to actually improve my sleep quality? I mean, is it just about, avoiding all those sleep disruptors that we talked about earlier?
That's a big part of it, but there are other factors to consider as well. One is making sure your bedroom is conducive to sleep.
Right, like keeping it cool, dark, and quiet.
Exactly. Think of it as creating a sleep sanctuary.
Oh.
Invest in blackout curtains to block out any light. Use a white noise machine to mask disruptive sounds, and make sure your bedroom is well ventilated and cool.
So it's about setting the stage for sleep success.
Yeah.
What about diet and exercise? Do those play a role in sleep quality?
Absolutely. Regular exercise can promote deeper, more restful sleep, but avoid intense workouts too close to bedtime.
Right.
And when it comes to diet, what you eat and drink can definitely impact your sleep.
Okay, so no late-night pizza or coffee binges.
It's best to avoid large meals and caffeine too close to bedtime.
Right.
And while alcohol might make you feel sleepy initially, remember it disrupts your sleep later in the night.
Right, we talked about that. So it's all about creating those healthy habits throughout the day that support good sleep.
Exactly. It's a holistic approach.
Okay.
And speaking of a holistic approach, let's talk about something that's often overlooked: our mental and emotional state.
Right. I mean, stress and anxiety, those are definite sleep killers.
They can be. When we're stressed or anxious, our minds race, making it difficult to fall asleep and stay asleep.
Yeah.
So it's important to find healthy ways to manage stress and kind of wind down before bed.
So what are some good ways to relax and de-stress before bed? Besides ditching the phone, obviously.
There are many options: reading a book, taking a warm bath, listening to calming music, practicing relaxation techniques like deep breathing or meditation. These can all help signal to your body and mind that it's time to sleep.
Okay, so it's about creating that relaxing bedtime routine that helps us transition from the busyness of the day to the tranquility of sleep.
Exactly. It's about signaling to your body and mind that it's time to shift gears and prepare for rest.
This is all great advice, but I have to be honest, like sometimes I do everything right. I avoid the sleep disruptors, I have a relaxing bedtime routine, my bedroom is dark and cool, and I still find myself tossing and turning, unable to sleep. What's going on then?
That's a really common experience, and it can be incredibly frustrating.
Right.
There are a few things that might be at play.
Okay.
Sometimes it's simply a matter of time and patience. Your body might need some time to adjust to a new sleep schedule or routine, but other times there might be an underlying sleep disorder that needs to be addressed.
Sleep disorders like insomnia.
Insomnia is one possibility, but there are many others. Restless leg syndrome, sleep apnea, and circadian rhythm disorders.
So if I'm struggling despite, making those lifestyle changes, it's important to seek professional help.
Absolutely. A sleep specialist can help identify any underlying issues and recommend personalized strategies for improving your sleep. They can also rule out any medical conditions that might be contributing to your sleep difficulties.
That's reassuring to know. It's like having a sleep detective on your side, helping you crack the case of your sleeplessness.
That's a great analogy. And speaking of detectives, there's one more fascinating aspect of sleep we need to explore. Dreams.
Oh, dreams. I've always been intrigued by them. They can be so bizarre and surreal, yet sometimes they feel so real and meaningful. What's actually happening in our brains when we dream?
That's a question that has captivated scientists and philosophers for centuries.
Yeah. Dreams have been the subject of myths, legends, and countless interpretations. But thanks to advances in neuroscience, we're starting to unravel some of the mysteries of the dreaming brain. Okay, spill the beans.
Sure.
What have we learned about dreams? What's their purpose?
Well, first, let's debunk a common myth. We don't only dream during REM sleep. While it's true that our most vivid and memorable dreams occur during REM sleep, we actually dream throughout the night in all stages of sleep.
Really? I always thought dreams were like exclusive to REM sleep. So what's different about dreams in different sleep stages?
Dreams in non-REM sleep tend to be more thought-like and less visual. They often involve familiar places and situations, and they might even feel like a continuation of your waking thoughts.
Okay.
It's like our brains are still processing and sorting through the day's events, even in those lighter stages of sleep.
Interesting. So even when we're not in like deep sleep, our brains are still busy behind the scenes. But what about REM sleep dreams? Those are the ones that really capture our imaginations.
REM sleep dreams are a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
They're characterized by vivid imagery, bizarre storylines, and intense emotions. It's like our brains are putting on a nightly show, complete with special effects and plot twists.
That's a great way to put it. So why do we have these like elaborate dream productions? What's their purpose?
There's no single definitive answer, but there are several compelling theories. One prominent theory is the memory consolidation hypothesis, which suggests that REM sleep dreams help us process and consolidate memories,
Okay.
transferring information from short-term to long-term storage.
So it's like our brains are hitting the save button on important memories while we dream.
Exactly. And this theory is supported by studies showing that REM sleep deprivation impairs memory performance. Another intriguing theory is the threat simulation theory, which proposes that dreams serve as a virtual reality training ground, helping us rehearse for potential threats and challenges we might face in waking life.
So it's like our brains are running simulations to prepare us for any situation, kind of like a mental boot camp.
That's the idea. Imagine it as your brain's way of saying, okay, let's run through some scenarios and see how you handle them. This could be why we often dream about things that make us anxious or fearful.
Yeah.
It's our brains trying to prepare us for potential threats.
That's fascinating. So it's like our brains are constantly working to keep us safe and prepared even when we're asleep. What other theories are there about why we dream?
Another theory gaining traction is the emotional regulation hypothesis.
Okay.
This suggests that dreams help us process emotions, particularly negative ones. During REM sleep, the amygdala, the part of our brain that's responsible for processing emotions, is highly active. And this suggests that dreams might provide a safe space for us to kind of work through emotional experiences and regulate our mood.
So it's like dreams are a form of emotional therapy, helping us make sense of our feelings and release pent-up emotions.
That's the idea. Dreams might be our brain's way of helping us cope with stress, trauma, and, the emotional ups and downs of life.
This is all so mind-blowing. It's amazing how much we're still learning about the power of sleep and dreams. But I have to ask, what about those dreams that seem completely random and nonsensical? Do they have any meaning?
That's a question that has stumped dream interpreters for ages.
Right.
Some believe that every element in a dream, no matter how bizarre, holds some kind of symbolic meaning. Others suggest that dreams are simply the brain's way of making sense of random neural activity during sleep. It's like Our brains are creating stories out of the neural noise.
Yeah, I guess that's part of the allure of dreams, isn't it? That
Oh.
sense of mystery and the possibility that they hold hidden messages. But with all this talk about how important sleep is and how easily it's disrupted,
Hmm.
it's a little daunting. What if we're already sleep deprived?
Yeah.
What are the real consequences of not getting enough sleep?
That's a crucial question and one we need to address head on. The truth is, chronic sleep deprivation has far-reaching consequences that go way beyond just feeling tired.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
I think we all know that sleep deprivation makes us feel groggy and irritable, but what are the long-term consequences?
Well, the effects are surprisingly widespread.
Ugh.
Chronic sleep deprivation has been linked to a host of serious health problems: heart disease, stroke, diabetes, obesity, and even an increased risk of certain types of cancer.
Wait, hold on. Cancer? Are you serious?
It's true. Studies have shown a strong correlation between chronic sleep deprivation and an increased risk of certain types of cancer, including breast, prostate, and colorectal cancer.
Wow, that's scary. I knew sleep was important, but I had no idea it was that critical for our overall health.
Mhm.
So what's the connection between sleep deprivation and all of these serious diseases?
Sleep deprivation throws our bodies into a state of chronic stress. Our hormone levels go haywire. Our immune system weakens, and our cells become more vulnerable to damage. Over time, this chronic stress takes a toll on our organs and increases our susceptibility to disease.
So it's like our bodies are in constant fight or flight mode,
Yeah.
even when there's no real danger present.
Exactly. And that chronic stress response wreaks havoc on our systems, setting the stage for a whole cascade of health problems.
This is making me seriously rethink my all-nighter habits. I always thought I could just catch up on sleep on the weekends, but now I'm not so sure.
Unfortunately, it's not that simple.
Yeah.
While catching up on sleep can help alleviate some of those immediate effects of sleep deprivation, it doesn't fully reverse the damage.
Right.
The long-term consequences can linger, increasing your risk of those chronic diseases we discussed.
Wow, there's a lot to process. It's like a wake-up call, pun intended.
Yeah.
We're so focused on, productivity and squeezing every last drop out of our days that we're neglecting the one thing that's essential for our health and well-being.
You hit the nail on the head. We live in a sleep-deprived society where busyness is worn as a badge of honor. But it's time to change the narrative and prioritize sleep as a non-negotiable pillar of health.
I couldn't agree more. But let's be realistic. A lot of people face real challenges when it comes to getting enough sleep.
Right.
They might have demanding jobs, family responsibilities, or health conditions that interfere with their sleep. So what advice do you have for those who are struggling?
That's an important point. Sleep challenges are often multifaceted, and there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Right.
However, there are some general strategies that can make a big difference.
Okay, let's hear them. I'm ready to take back control of my sleep.
First and foremost, prioritize sleep.
Okay.
Treat it with the same importance that you would diet and exercise. Make it a non-negotiable part of your daily routine.
Okay, so schedule sleep, check. What else?
Create a consistent sleep schedule. Go to bed and wake up around the same time each day, even on weekends, to regulate your circadian rhythm.
We talked about that earlier. Consistency is key. What about the environment?
Your sleep environment matters. Make sure your bedroom is cool, dark, and quiet. Invest in blackout curtains, a comfortable mattress, and cozy bedding.
So it's all about creating that sleep sanctuary. So what else can we do to kind of create a more sleep-friendly world for ourselves?
That's a great question, and one we'll continue to explore in the final part of our deep dive.
All right, so welcome back to our deep dive into sleep. We uncovered some serious sleep disruptors lurking in our modern lives, explored the science behind those bizarre and beautiful dreams, and now it's time to talk solutions.
Yes.
We left off talking about creating a sleep sanctuary,
Right.
but what else can we do to improve our sleep, especially in a world that seems determined to keep us awake?
Yeah, I think you've hit on a key point. It's not just about our individual habits, it's about creating a culture that values sleep.
Right.
Think about how often we celebrate pulling all-nighters
Right.
or brag about functioning on minimal sleep.
Yeah, it's almost like a badge of honor
It is.
to be sleep deprived.
Yeah.
But we've already established that's not something to be proud of. It's harming our health.
Exactly. It's time to shift that mindset.
Yeah.
Sleep isn't a luxury. It's a fundamental biological need.
Right.
Just like eating and breathing, we need to start treating it that way.
So how do we change the narrative? I mean, it feels like we're constantly bombarded with these messages that, tell us to do more, be more, and sleep less.
It starts with awareness. The more we understand about the vital role that sleep plays in our physical and mental well-being, the more likely we are to prioritize it.
Okay, so knowledge is power.
Yeah,
But even when we know better, it can be hard to resist those, like, societal pressures.
absolutely. That's why it's crucial to have open conversations about sleep,
Okay.
both in our personal lives and in the workplace.
Yeah.
Imagine a world where taking a nap during the day wasn't seen as lazy,
Right.
but rather as a smart strategy
Yeah.
for boosting productivity and well-being.
That would be a game changer. But how do we actually get there?
It requires a collective effort. We need to advocate for policies that support healthy sleep habits,
Okay.
like flexible work schedules
Mm.
and school start times that align with teenagers' natural sleep patterns.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's about creating these systems that allow us to prioritize sleep
Right.
without feeling like we're sacrificing success or productivity.
Exactly. We need to stop glorifying busyness and start celebrating rest.
I love that. Celebrating rest.
Yes.
Like giving ourselves permission
Yep.
to prioritize our well-being. So, on a practical level, what are some concrete steps that we can take
Yeah.
to improve our sleep, starting tonight?
Well, we've covered a lot of ground already.
We have.
But let's recap some of the key takeaways. First, establish a consistent sleep schedule
Okay.
and stick to it as much as possible, even on weekends.
Consistency is key. We've heard that a few times, and it's definitely sinking in.
Good.
What else?
Create a relaxing bedtime routine that helps you wind down. This could include taking a warm bath, reading a book, or listening to calming music. And avoid screen time for at least an hour before bed. That blue light is a major sleep disruptor.
Right. Blue light, the enemy of sleep.
Exactly. Make sure your bedroom is cool, dark, and quiet. Invest in blackout curtains, a comfortable mattress, and cozy bedding.
Okay.
And consider using a white noise machine to mask any disruptive sounds.
So it's all about creating that sleep sanctuary.
Yes.
A place where our bodies and minds can truly rest and recharge.
Exactly. And if you're still struggling despite making these changes, don't hesitate to seek professional help.
Yeah.
A sleep specialist can help identify any underlying sleep disorders or medical conditions that might be interfering with your sleep.
This has been a real eye-opener for me, and I hope it has been for our listeners as well. It's time to stop treating sleep as an afterthought
Yeah.
and start prioritizing it as the foundation for
Yeah.
a healthy, happy, and fulfilling life.
Well said. Sleep is not a luxury. It's a necessity. It's time to reclaim our right to a good night's sleep and reap the rewards of a well-rested mind and body.
I love that. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into why we sleep. We hope you've enjoyed the journey and gained some valuable insights along the way. Sweet dreams, everyone.